All right, we're going to talk about the legendary Wally Yeoman. Let's talk about him.
Well, Wally, one of my best friends on and off the football field, and he'd had head coaching experience, and he was, as I said, he was one of the co-defensive coordinators almost from the get-go, and the kids loved him. They had there's more Wally stories going around than you could believe, and but he was smart. He could relate to kids, and also he could teach. And I mean, that's the thing. All our assistants, I would prefer to have the kids identify with their assistant, their position coach, than they would with me. I like them to try to solve their problems. I get involved if they can't be solved. But I just that's the other thing I did. Besides a lot of authority and responsibility, I wanted them to take charge of their own group. I didn't want to hear about problems with their group. I wanted them to solve them. Every once in a while, there's something that I'd have to be involved in, but I mean, those are few and far between.
Wally and Marilyn, the consummate football family, and boy, the boys both the boys were great Kingsmen, and I mean, if anybody as a group besides the Geesman clan, you and Jane and Tim and Matt, I mean, these two families were married together. You had a chance to grow up together in theory, as coaches and as families. Let's just talk about how the two families related to each other.
Yeah, well, I agree with you. Wally was the patriarch of the first family of Penn football. 3 boys that played. Marilyn, that first year we went to the state, she drove down the day before, about every mile would put a sign up saying "Go Penn," that sort of thing. We read those the whole way from hitting on 31 all the way to Indianapolis. There were signs that she would have up. She was, if you didn't stand at attention, didn't take your hat off when the anthem's being played, you felt the wrath of Marilyn Yeoman at the games. I mean, she was just a great fan, great person. I'm tear up a little bit even thinking about her. But of course, about the boys, all great players, all great coaches. So that was it. And I'd say, I'm honored that you had mentioned my family. And Jane and Marilyn were best friends. Jane went with her and putting up those signs, by the way. And then of course both my boys played. I think I always defer to Wally and Marilyn's the first family, and that's fine with me. And I'm honored that you mentioned me with them.
When everybody talks about their favorite Wally Yeoman story, and everybody has a different one.
Yeah.
Does Chris Geesman have 1 or 2 favorite Wally Yeoman stories that we can share?
Now you've limited it quite a bit. But I will say the one that I have to laugh at, and Wally, we have a team meeting like an hour and a half before kickoff. The whole team's in there and just go over, just make sure everything. Well, before that, Wally has the DBs in. 15 minutes before team meeting, Wally has the DBs in. So I don't even go to that meeting. And after I went to it once, I knew I was never going again. I walked in and Wally had the 4 DB positions drawn up on the board. He said, if they go here, you're going here, 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 here. If he does this, here, 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 and here. But if he comes up and comes back here, so he's drawing, doesn't erase anything. Pretty soon it's almost solid chalk. And I looked at the DBs, they're going like that. He says, you got that? And they're all nodding their heads, yeah. And I started to say, well, we got it. I said, okay. And so, I mean, I said, and there's like 20 lines going from every position. And what you do this thing. Kids are just nodding their head. And I said, Wally, I'm not coming to any more of your meetings. You're good. But it was that was a class. I talked to players, so Coach, we know we got it. Don't worry about it. The players, nobody asked any questions. They just knew it.
All right, what's your favorite off the field Wally Yeoman story that you can share with us?
Paul, might have to do that next time, because all of them that I can think of that are funny are a little R-rated. Yeah. So I'll have to do that next time we talk.
Okay. All right.
I'm trying to think. Listen.
All right. So the next year, so 80 was it 84 that Corey comes back to coach?
Yes.
Okay, 84. Okay, so did you have an inkling in 1983 that young Corey Yeoman was going to come back to join the coaching staff? Did he make that clear to you?
Yeah,
when
he
was
wanted.
in college?
I knew that's what he wanted, and that was his life's dream. He didn't want. Some people wanted to be a college coach. Corey wanted to coach at Penn, and we were glad to have him. And he was a good coach from the day he walked on. The kids, identified with him, and he'd get down and show them how it's supposed to be done. He was great.
Corey shares the story with me on several occasions that when he was a little boy, when you and his dad were in the coaches meeting, that he would be outside the coach's office with his ear to the window or the door, whatever the case may be, so he could listen in on what was going on.
Well, I found out about that the day I opened the door and he fell in my office. I said, Corey, what are you doing? He says, I was doing my favorite thing. I said, what's that? He says, listening to coaches talk, coach talk. So I knew about that. He liked to listen to coaches talk, coach talk.
Did you know then that he was destined to do this job?
Well, eventually it was just kind of understood. You don't know it right away. You just got to wait and see. If anybody could do it, everybody'd be doing it, but as you watch him and you just see him get better and just growing more, and he could talk with kids, talk with administrators, talk with everybody, and that was a key trait. He was very, very responsible and always put the time in.
You were two different coaches on the field. Corey's one of those guys who's always out there jumping up and down, clapping his hands. You can see he is the Energizer Bunny on Friday. You were a little bit more subdued compared to Corey.
Well, I used to be like that when I was an assistant and getting started, but I'll tell you, when you have to worry about everything, it's just different. When you're head coach, you're responsible for everything that goes on, and I just expected, I loved enthusiasm. I told kids, find a teammate to celebrate with. I won't be able to celebrate with you all the time, but if I want you celebrating, I think that's one of the reasons I love football. But I would, if we'd get a fumble, I'd turn around and I'd have to start talking to the offense right away and send them on. If there was, sudden change, if we'd fumble, I'd just say something to the defense. And no, I was very emotional probably my first 15 years, and after that, I just, it's a kid's game, turn it over to the kids, and let them have the fun, have the celebration. I'll just make sure I'm going to try to put them in a position where they can,
When did you know that Corey Yeoman was going to be your replacement?
Well, when I started thinking about getting out, and I wanted, the story to continue, and it just seemed like he was the logical guy, and I think it was kind of accepted by all the other coaches and everybody. And it was, I remember when I went over to see Dr. Markovich, our superintendent, told her that I was going to retire. She said, don't. She says, you can retire from teaching, but you can still coach. You can just coach if you want to do it. No. She says, this is an important hire, this is more important than the new superintendent. Do you realize if I hire a football coach that doesn't win, they'll run me out of town? I said, no, so we got the guy, Corey will be the guy. She said, oh, yeah, are you sure? Yeah, I was. So I talked to the principal and AD and told them I wanted Corey, and they all, oh, yeah. Well, after Corey's success, they all individually hired him by now. I mean, after he was a success, they all took the credit for hiring Corey. But I just think it was kind of understood that he would be the man. I knew Trent, but I talked to Trent, and he said if Corey didn't get it, I'm going to apply. So I said that's good, because Trent would have been good too. Any of the Yeoman boys would have been good. Actually, anybody that played at Penn, I think, would have been good. I think, man, he'd be a good head coach. I think, Barrier, I think all of them would be. Pete Roden was a coordinator the years he was down at Ben Davis when his wife was in med school. So, I mean, that's the great thing about the Penn staff. They're all capable.